would be called a jam. We call it the major scale, they call it a jam. But they have other scales. They have Phrygian scales. They have all kinds of different scales. And they organize it very similarly to the way jazz music organizes it in modes. So they can be transposed and you can move in between scales. In Western music, we generally stick to one key, but they switch between keys very fluidly. And they actually break up their scales into two. We have an 8-note scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They divide it into two parts, which are called jints. So they would go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they would add another top to it, da 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 da. And they vary which parts they use in each thing. So the player will improvise, and he'll move in between the different jins and the different maqam, depending on how he feels. And he just moves very freely. And we don't have that in the West at all, not that free anyhow. It's much more structured.
I think you kind of covered my following questions, but I'll read it. So, besides maqamat, Arabic music is distinguished with a concept that Western musicians find confusing sometimes, the quarter tone.
So in Western music, we have keys on the piano. You have the white and the black keys on the piano, and those are called semitones. They're little intervals of music. Now, in the octave, from one note to the top octave, in Western music, we have 12 notes. In Arabic music, they've broken it down into 24, but they don't do actual quarter tone jumps. They do 3/4 tone jumps. You'll never see 1/4 tone jump. You'll see a semitone plus a quarter tone, which equals 3/4 of the tone. And it sounds, it's that weird thing that made my ear tilt up. It's like, oh, it's slightly off. It's not quite on the note that I'm used to. And so Western ears, it sounds like you're singing flat. But now that I've gotten used to it, it's really, really pretty. And singers like Reem and Khalid, they move in between these maqams so freely, and they get in the quarter notes, the fineness of the quarter notes. My wife was listening to a song that Reem had recorded, and she said, I don't know if it's right, it sounds off. I'm like, no, it's supposed to sound like that. It's just a beautiful ornamentation of the notes, and it gives you a lot more options. You know, with 12 notes, you only have so many options. With 24, you have such a bigger palette to compose with.